let's get inspired to make a cut paper journal page. These are some of the junk journals I had made last year, I think, or the year before. I put them together with different types of packaging. I also used some scrapbook paper and just a lot of repurposed and recycled materials. I wanted to do a flip through to show you these books because I'll be using them in upcoming videos for mixed media and collage. And this is the junk journal that I've been working in most lately. I have some cut paper pages here, collage pages here, and I had been working on this page, and the next morning I remembered that I had this book about Matisse, and it shows inside the book there's a section that shows his cut paper work, and he used gouache painted papers that he would cut out and glue down to a white background in order to make different compositions. I thought I'd just give you a look at some of the pages in the book that are really interesting because he started out mostly with oil painting and things like that, but during his later years he made these simplified cut paper artworks. I flipped through the pages of the book slowly, just in case you hadn't seen these before. One takeaway I had from flipping through the book is that art can be as simple or as complicated or complex as you want it to be, and it reminded me that it's okay to do things differently and to work in different ways. You don't always have to stick to the same thing in order to express yourself or have an impact. So after I took a look at the book again, I really started to think differently about my cut paper work that I use for my art journals, and it's really a different way of painting. It's just basically painting with paper, and I really want to show how I make these artworks and how you can also make them with simple materials that you probably already have and already use. These are some of the my favorite supplies that I like to use for this process so far. I like using the tempera paints. They dry quickly. The Neocolor pastels are very vibrant and pigmented, so they're great. You only need scissors, obviously. You might want to use glue stick or wet glue depending on how you like to do things. I use both. I use pencils, pens. I also use papers that are already pre-cut into shapes, some that aren't, and the Posca paint markers. For this session in my junk journal, I had cut out some flower tops, and I decided to make some more because I thought I'd spread them across both pages, but they were so small that it didn't quite fill up the space the way I wanted to. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out some more tops here. Since I work with mixed media a lot, I sometimes will make a cut paper top, and for the stems and leaves, I'll paint them in or draw them in. But for this session, I decided to use some of the painted papers from my collage stash. And also, these are actually paper towel that I had left over from a painting session. Sometimes, if they have interesting color blends on them, I will let them dry out and save them and put them in my collage stash to use later. They make interesting backgrounds or textures for abstract pages, and they also work well for a cut paper or collage design. I'm going to continue this process of cutting out the shapes and gluing them down. You can take some inspiration from what I'm doing or the colors that I'm using to create in your journal, or just relax and watch the process. I started using one of my paintbrushes to smooth down the paper towel and the other papers because they started to stick up and I was having trouble making them stay down with just my fingertips. I guess because it was so sticky, the brush helped smooth out the paper, so you might want to try that when you're working. Or you could also, I also like using, I think it's called a color shaper or a paint shaper. Those also work really well with smoothing out the cut paper and collage. After the page was pretty much finished, I decided I wanted to add some butterflies. I only had this kind of large butterfly, and I thought I had butterfly stickers, but I didn't. I had used them all, so I decided to cut out the shape of the sticker paper and just use it. Almost looks like a frame almost, so I just used that. And I also had a small word that I cut out from another worksheet or word sheet, and I'm just kind of moving things around to see where I want it to stay. And I decided on the left side page, the left page, I wanted something else there, so I cut out 2 more of the butterflies, or the butterfly, I'll call it a frame, and I glued that down, and I like how it turned out. I was surprised that it looked decent, you know. I've never done that before on an art journal page, so I went ahead and added some metallic gold to the little sun, and I couldn't decide if I wanted sun rays or just like kind of like a symbolic sunshine, so I went with that. And then I saw that one of the flowers needed a stem, so I added some metallic watercolor there too. I really had fun making this page, and I was really calm, and it was just a good painting session, and I hope you had fun with that. I hope you got to make something in your art journal today. Thank you for joining me in this week's video, and I'll see you next time.